Sometimes, with so much focus on airplane terrorism and mass shootings, not much attention is paid to other areas of vulnerability when it comes to terrorism or crime. And one of these that we've talked about on our show for a while is trains and bus stations, which, even in large cities, often have absolutely no security. And another is the sort of relative ease with which, once acquired, chemical weapons could be used to really do damage to the water supply or to large populated areas through the air. And we have news regarding ISIS and chemical weapons. According to Iraqi and U.S. intelligence officials, ISIS is aggressively pursuing development of chemical weapons, setting up a branch dedicated to researching and conducting experiments with help of scientists from Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere in the region. And that being said, U.S. intelligence officials don't believe that ISIS has the capability to develop very sophisticated chemical weapons, like, for example, nerve gas, which would be the most suited for a terrorist attack on a civilian target. But we do know that ISIS has used mustard gas on the battlefields in Iraq and Syria. And this discussion about chemical weapons and ISIS isn't really about sowing irrational fear or about scaring people, but about being honest that I think about this, Lewis. I think about the security of trains and the possibility of someone getting into Manhattan or Boston or crowded cities and releasing some kind of toxin into, for example, the water supply or Grand Central Station or the train and bus terminal here in Boston. That is something I think about, and we now have some intelligence information, at least, that ISIS is working on this type of technology.
Yeah, and they are operating in Syria, right? And we know Assad has used chemical weapons on his people.
Sure.
And so, it may not be that difficult if they take over a certain area to, they may be able to get their hands on some. And yeah, and you're right. I do think about it domestically too. Not pleasant to think about.
It is much easier to move around with dangerous chemical elements than it is with guns and explosives. That doesn't mean that we know that, at least in New York City, bridges and tunnels, they we believe they have methods of identifying when certain chemicals are passed through, but certainly compared to high explosives and metal weapons, we're talking about something different here. As battlefield weapons, chemical weapons are not considered particularly effective, but as tools for terror, I fear they can be quite effective. And I really hope that the right people are keeping an eye on the export of biotech manufacturing equipment. There aren't an unlimited number of companies that make either the equipment or deal in the chemicals that would be chemical terrorists, chemical weapons terrorists would want to get access to. At the same time, using I want to talk about this because I think it's a real thing. At the same time, the fear of nuclear or chemical weapons has been used in the past to create a pretext for military action. So we want to also be cautious of that.
But his, the chemical biological weapon thing, domestically, I don't think there's an excuse for military action. I mean, what we need is better security, better intelligence, and just we need those researching it or developing it to be more responsible with it.